In the next portion of our demonstration, we'll go through an example of our financial submission capabilities that an industry user would encounter when submitting their financial statements and additional information to the regulatory body. The SQL Power platform collects data from regulated institutions in a variety of ways. The system can allow institutions to submit their financial submissions offline through our web services. We can also pull data directly from the regulated institution's backend database, as well as directly via our online form facility. The submitter can log into the system and upload Excel, CSV, or XBRL instance documents, or they can manually enter data and submit it to the SQL Power platform. We'll begin by demonstrating a backend submission. I'll start by logging in as an internal user from a central bank. Next, I'm going to navigate to the Filings tab. Here, you can see the Filings portlet, which has all of the scheduled filings that are available and required to be completed by the regulated institution, or LFI. I'm going to open up a financial filing that is due to be submitted. I'll navigate to the first schedule, which is the balance sheet. So here you'll notice that this filing is blank, as it's still due to be submitted. I will now open a command prompt and run a command to submit the regulated institution's financial filing. You can now see that the filing has been populated immediately in real time. In the next portion, we'll be demonstrating our data pulling capabilities. The system has been configured to pull banking transaction data from the LFI's backend database on demand. I'm now going to log into the system as a central bank analyst and launch that process. This is done by navigating to the New Request tab and launching the Transaction Collection form for Alliance Capital. This form has been configured to pull data directly from a regulated entity's database. Once the form is launched, you can see banking transaction data being automatically populated from an LFI's database. Here we can see the details of the transaction, including the transaction date and time, the currency, the amount of the transaction, amongst many other details that are listed here. Here you can see that the system has pulled hundreds of banking transactions from the regulated institution. Once I'm ready, I can validate and submit. The transaction history is uploaded into our analytics database where we can review it by simply navigating to Reports, Standard Reports. Here we can review an AML transaction report. So after that data has been submitted, the system will alert the regulator about any transactions that are flagged as potential money laundering issues based on predefined scenarios. This alert report has been automatically emailed to the AML analyst. In this example, we have three main categories of scenarios that will trigger alerts based on the number of transactions per time period, the transaction amount depending on the transacted currency, as well as the geographical location of the account holder. In the next portion of our demonstration, I'll be going through our other data collection capabilities via an Excel upload. I'll begin by logging in as an external user at an LFI or regulated institution. Next, I'll navigate to the Filings tab, which is used for submitting scheduled filings, like monthly or annual returns. The Filings portlet lists all of the financial filings that are required for submission by this entity. Each row is a unique reporting window to make a submission, and the system automatically generates these reporting windows based on each user's filing requirements. You can see the details of each filing in this table, such as the return name, organization name, the period we're reporting against, the due date, and so on. Clicking on the filing number will open the online form facility to submit the filing. On the first page, we can see the table of schedules, listing all the schedules in this filing. Each schedule is the equivalent of a single sheet in Excel. Here, within the balance sheet layout, we have the first column displaying the label of each concept, the numeric alias in the second column, and an input field for the current year values. You can also see that the values for the prior year have been pre-populated and are uneditable. This is an example of the system being able to populate values based on previous submissions, which eliminates the requirement for manual comparison by any party. These forms are also embedded with business rules, assertions, and formulas that will appear as we eventually fill in the values. The real-time validation helps to minimize calculation errors or missing information from the submitter user's end. These forms have also been configured to accept Excel uploads. The system also supports uploads from CSV, XBRL, or via other backend submissions. When Excel upload is enabled, the system generates an Excel template of the online form that the user can download and work on and re-upload back into the system. For the purposes of our demonstration, I've downloaded the Excel template in advance and filled in the values. Here, within the balance sheet, you can see the same layout that we saw within the web portal. You can see that all of the current year values have been filled in. Next, we'll notice our income statement in the same layout with all the current year values populated. In the next tab, we have investment details where you can see additional rows have been added. And finally, we have capital requirements. Here, you can see all the values being populated. Returning back to our web portal, we'll go ahead and upload the Excel template to our filing. Once the Excel document has been successfully uploaded, we'll navigate back to the balance sheet. Here, as I scroll down, we can see an error as the value in red. Here, when we hover over the value, we can see the error reason, which is that total assets must equal total liabilities plus shareholder equity. This is an example of a business rule that's fired based on accounting principles, and you can see that the system is doing calculations in real time. You'll also notice values in yellow. This is an example of the system conducting data quality verification, which analyzes significant variations between previous and current data sets. When I hover over the value, we can see the warning reason, which is that the variance is greater than 10% from the prior year. These assertions and warnings can be easily configured and defined to suit the exact requirements of the regulator. Before navigating through the remainder of the schedules, we'll adjust the value causing an error. And as I scroll back down, we can see that the error has now been resolved. Navigating through the remainder of the schedules, we'll finally reach our capital requirements. You'll notice a yellow highlighted field. This is a warning. While the system does not accept filings with fatal errors, it will accept filings with warnings. This is in place to highlight the field to the user for any possible errors. Next, we'll proceed to validate. On the validation page, we can see that there are errors that do not allow us to proceed and the submit button has been grayed out. We can see that there are some outstanding required attachments. Here, we'll navigate to the attachments page to make sure to include those. Once we're ready, we'll proceed to validate once more. And finally, on the validation page, you'll notice some warnings that we encountered when navigating through the schedules. However, we can still successfully make our submission. Next, I will log in as an analyst or a central bank user to review the financial submission. The submission can now be found under the Submitted Filings tab, which has all the filings that have been submitted for this analyst to review. Another tool for analysts to use to monitor the financial health of an institution is Inline Analytics. It helps to reduce the manual effort associated with ongoing risk assessment by giving review analysts an instant visual of risk areas. Inline Analytics uses predefined thresholds to monitor and flag risk levels within a filing. Here within the web portal, depending on which risk range a submitted value falls under, Inline Analytics will display a different color, either green, yellow, or red. Green indicates that all the concepts being monitored by the system are within an acceptable range, yellow indicates that at least one value is within the warning range, and red indicates that at least one value has fallen below the acceptable range and needs further review. This gives an analyst user from the regulator the ability to get a high-level view of exactly where to focus their efforts without having to open each submission, saving time and manual effort. The analyst can also evaluate these at-risk values in more detail by opening up the form. Here within the balance sheet, Inline Analytics appears in real time at the concept level. Different thresholds can be applied to these concepts based on certain filing periods that have been specified in the system, without having to open various past submissions for manual review. Hovering over the value will reveal a pop-up, where the analyst can review the exact threshold being applied to the concept. If there is a previous filing for comparison in the system, as there is here, Inline Analytics will show an arrow up or down to indicate the absolute value change from the previous submission as well as the percent value change. The system can distribute this information by pushing alerts via email. Alerts can also be configured to be sent in real time or in intervals to notify interested parties and support ongoing monitoring. As an analyst user in this case, the results of this organization's financial submissions raise some concerns. So in order for this analyst user to get a comprehensive view of an organization, we have our organization profile accessible from the navigation menu. Here, the analyst can see all the organization's information available in the system. The organization profile displays a 360-degree view of all regulated institutions in the system, and this is where analysts can easily access all pertinent information related to a regulated entity in a compact format. Here within the General Information tab, we can see all of the basic details related to this organization. This includes their fiscal year end date, their asset group, their peer group, the date that they are recognized in the system. Below, we have a list of any licenses they may hold, a list of senior staff or shareholders. Below, we also can see any related organizations and individuals, as well as any submissions they might have made in the past. The organization profile is completely configurable and can be easily modified to see everything important to the regulator and is not limited to only what you see on your screen here. We can also begin to explain how risk is identified in the Risk Assessment Scorecard. This is a mini dashboard to display the risk score of an organization by category, using color codes to indicate their risk status. Here we can see Alliance Capital has been given a net risk rating of high. All this information is derived from a combination of sources, such as data submitted by the organization, manual entry by an internal user, or passed by integrating with third-party tools or risk assessment tools like on-site inspections, as well as qualitative assessments that have been conducted online by the regulated entity and captured automatically in the AML risk rating system. In this profile, we have derived the net risk from submitted financial data and analyst review. We also have our risks profile, which lists all of the categories of risk that were indicated within the risk assessment scorecard. You can see each category being scored manually. However, this can be configured to be set automatically based on the thresholds your organization might require. Here we can see that the only derived values are the financial risk rating taken from historic submitted filings and the AML risk rating taken from qualitative assessments. Back to our General Information tab, we can see the financial KPIs, and we can see a breakdown of the financial risks of this organization, as well as the absolute score from which the financial risk rating was derived. Below, you can see a breakdown based on CAMEL ratings and their actual performance ratio that has been calculated from previously submitted financial filings. You'll also notice each of the KPIs below are also color-coded to indicate their risk status. The link to view the CAMEL dashboard is located here to review this organization's financial health and performance in more detail. On this page, you can see the overall score and overall risk level of the organization. We can see each of the metrics that are being monitored, as well as the base, target, actual, and actual performance percentage, as well as how we calculate the total for their performance. This is broken up into 5 tabs, which are capital adequacy, asset quality, management capability, earnings, and liquidity. In this demonstration, we'll navigate through each of these 5 tabs to show you some of the graphs and reports that can be generated. Each of these are highly configurable and can be easily modified to suit your exact requirements. First, in the Capital Adequacy tab, we can see an analysis of this organization's regulatory capital and risk-weighted capital position over time. In the next tab, we have an asset quality analysis covering this institution's loan quality displayed in 2 graphs. This is an interactive graph. By selecting or deselecting the checkboxes, we can isolate different loan types. In the next tab is management capability displayed as a bar graph. Next is the earnings tab, which helps to evaluate an institution's long-term viability. Displayed here, we have the efficiency ratio over time, as well as an analysis of this institution's return on average assets and return on regulatory capital over time. The final tab is liquidity. Here we can see a downward trend for this organization and additional graphs below, breaking down their deposits and loans across different types. Thank you for watching the SQL Power Suite demo. If you have any questions or would like to explore the solution further, please contact us by email at info@sqlpower.ca or visit our website.